The house I moved into was no ordinary home. It was cursed, a witch-haunted nightmare. The air was thick with an oppressive presence, whispers echoing through the walls at night. Each evening I was tormented, choked, dragged into darkness. Desperate, I took a stranger's advice to banish the evil. But when the footsteps returned, I realized I had only made things worse. Please subscribe to my channel and like my video. I had never been a superstitious person, but the day I moved into the old house at the end of Main Street, everything changed. The house had been vacant for years, with a crumbling fence and ivy climbing up the sides. The locals had warned me, their eyes filled with caution as they whispered about the strange occurrences that had plagued anyone who dared to live there. But I was young, eager for a fresh start, and a little bit naive. I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in curses. I was determined to prove them wrong. The first few nights were peaceful. I would lie in bed, listening to the wind rustling the leaves outside, the creaks of the old wooden floors, and the occasional sound of the house settling. It wasn't until the third night that I began to hear it, soft, almost imperceptible at first, whispers. I brushed it off as the house itself, old and tired, making strange noises. But as the nights passed, the whispers grew louder, clearer. They would come at exactly midnight, like clockwork, rising from behind my bedroom door. At first, it was just the sound of murmurs, too soft to make out. But by the fourth night, the voices started to take shape. I could hear distinct words now, hushed and insistent. "Let us in, come closer." They whispered, their tone sending chills down my spine. I couldn't understand why I was so terrified. It didn't make sense. But every night, as the clock struck midnight, the voices would begin. And every night, I would lie there, frozen in bed, too afraid to move, too afraid to confront whatever was making the sounds. But one night, on the sixth night, I had had enough. I was tired of lying there, powerless, while something, or someone, tormented me from behind that door. I had to know who or what was making those sounds. I needed to see it for myself. I decided to leave my door unlocked, just a crack, so I could quietly open it and peek out, undetected. I didn't know what I was hoping to see, but I felt like I had to do something. The whispers started exactly at midnight, just like before. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest as I slowly reached for the door handle. The voices seemed louder tonight, more insistent. "Come closer, see us." My hand shook as I slowly turned the knob, careful not to make a sound. I opened the door just a few inches, enough to let me peer into the hallway. The house was eerily silent, the only sound now the soft scratching of my own breath. The whispers had stopped. I felt a wave of cold rush over me, a sense of dread washing over my skin. The air felt thick, suffocating. I couldn't explain it, but something felt wrong. I stepped out of my room, my bare feet making barely a sound on the old wooden floors. The hallway was dark, but I could still make out the faint outline of the stairs at the end of the corridor. I stood there, staring into the blackness, waiting for something to happen. For what, exactly, I couldn't say. My mind was racing, my heart pounding in my chest, but I forced myself to stay still. Then it came. The unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoed in the hall. My breath caught in my throat as I felt a cold hand of panic grip my chest. They were real. The voices were real. I turned my head toward the sound, straining to see in the dark. My eyes flicked around the hallway, searching, but I saw nothing. And yet, I could feel something, someone, there watching me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as the sound of the footsteps grew louder, closer. Suddenly, I felt a presence right behind me. I spun around, my heart racing, but the hallway was empty. I was alone. I took a step back, my body shaking uncontrollably. The whispers had returned, louder now, closer. "We're here, we're waiting." The words were no longer soft, but sharp, demanding. They seemed to come from all directions, surrounding me. My pulse raced as I felt something brush against my arm, cold and clammy. I stumbled backward, my foot hitting something soft, and I fell to the ground with a loud thud. My breath came in ragged gasps as I scrambled to get up, my mind racing with fear. I had to get back to my room. I had to lock the door. I had to escape whatever this was. But when I tried to stand, a wave of dizziness swept over me. My vision blurred and the room spun. I felt a pressure on my chest as though something was holding me down. I gasped for air, but no matter how hard I tried, it felt as if my lungs wouldn't work. My head swam and my body grew heavier, as though invisible hands were pressing down on me, forcing me into the cold wooden floor. And then I heard it. A voice so close it was like it was right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have opened the door." My heart skipped a beat and panic surged through me. I tried to scream, to call for help, but no sound left my mouth. I was choking, gasping for air, but it felt as if someone was strangling me, holding me captive in my own body. The darkness pressed in on me and my vision started to fade. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The whispers grew louder, their voices now a chorus of torment, their words blending into one maddening cacophony of rage. You'll never escape. You'll never leave. My eyes fluttered, my body trembling as I fought to stay conscious. I could feel the weight pressing on me, suffocating me, crushing me beneath its unseen force. My head began to swell, the pressure unbearable, and I could feel my thoughts slipping away, replaced by the overwhelming presence of something ancient and vengeful. And then, as quickly as it had begun, everything stopped. The whispers, the pressure, the choking, it all ceased in an instant. I gasped for air, my chest heaving as I lay on the cold floor, too afraid to move, too terrified to even blink. For what felt like an eternity, I stayed there, paralyzed by fear, waiting for whatever was haunting me to return. But it didn't. The house was silent. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I lay awake, my heart pounding, my mind racing with questions. What had I seen? What had happened to me? The next day, I locked every door and window, every crack and crevice in the house. But I couldn't escape the feeling, the oppressive weight that had followed me from the moment I stepped into that house. Every night, the whispers still came. I could hear them through the walls, through the floorboards. And every night, I lay there, too afraid to move, too afraid to confront whatever haunted me. Though the relief that washed over me when the witch's torment finally stopped was indescribable. For the first time in weeks, I could take a full breath without feeling the heavy weight of an unseen presence crushing me. The whispers, the pressure, the feeling of being watched every second, all of it was gone. It was almost too good to be true, and a strange part of me wondered if I could trust the silence. That night, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I lay in bed, waiting for something to happen. I half expected the witch to return, but the minutes stretched into hours without any sign of her presence. Eventually, I drifted into an uneasy sleep, the silence still pressing in on me. For the next few weeks, I lived in a strange, tentative peace. The pressure in my chest had lifted, and I could sleep without feeling like something was suffocating me. But despite the calm, something nagged at the back of my mind. I still woke up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, feeling the weight of something unseen hovering nearby. But the whispers and footsteps never came. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to believe that the witch had truly left me. The cocoyam and broomstick seemed to have worked. Maybe there was more to those old superstitions than I had thought. But the peace was short-lived. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, reading, when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. My blood ran cold. I froze, my heart leaping into my throat. The house was still, the air heavy with an unshakable tension. There was no wind outside, no reason for the sound. Yet the footsteps continued, slow and deliberate. I jumped up, panic coursing through me. The witch couldn't have come back. I had done everything right. The cocoyam was in place, the broomstick hung by the door. How could she return? I hesitated, then crept toward the hallway, each step heavy with dread. The footsteps had stopped, but I could still feel the presence. Something dark, something watching me. I reached the doorway and looked into the hallway. There, standing in the shadows, was a figure. Tall, cloaked in darkness, with no face to see, only a dark silhouette that radiated malice. I couldn't move. My body felt frozen in place, my breath caught in my throat. And then the figure spoke. Its voice was deeper than before, more guttural, as if coming from the very earth itself. "You thought you could escape me?" it hissed. The word sent a shock through my body. My knees buckled and I collapsed to the floor, unable to scream, unable to call for help. The figure stepped forward and I could feel the air grow colder, thicker. It was closer now, its presence suffocating. Desperation gripped me. I had to do something. I scrambled toward the door, my hands trembling as I reached for the broomstick. I had to check. Had someone removed it? But when I reached the door, I froze. The broomstick was still there, but the cocoyam I had placed at the corners of my house, was gone. Every single one of them had vanished. I looked around in a panic. Who could have taken them? There was no one else in the house. I tried to stay calm, but the room felt like it was closing in on me. It was then that I realized. The witch had returned because the cocoyam was no longer there. I had failed. There was no way to buy new cocoyams that night. The market was closed, and even if I could have gone out, I knew it would be too late. The witch would be too powerful by then. I had to act fast. I grabbed the broomstick, holding it tightly. With trembling hands, I raised it above my head and slammed it into the doorframe. The moment it made contact, a force, powerful and unexpected, rushed through the room. The figure screeched, a terrible sound that made my blood run cold. Its form began to disintegrate, vanishing into the air like smoke, and with it, the oppressive weight of its presence lifted. I stood there, gasping for breath, my body shaking. The silence that followed was almost deafening. The house felt empty again, but I didn't dare move. I couldn't let my guard down. I never saw the figure again. The witch never returned. But the feeling of unease never fully left. I knew I couldn't stay in the house anymore. The thought of living there, even without the witch's presence, filled me with dread. I had to find somewhere new. A good estate, a safer place, away from whatever dark force had been haunting me. I packed my things and left the haunted house behind, never looking back. I couldn't risk staying there any longer. I had to leave the witch's house for good. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Your support means the world to me. Drop your comment if you've ever experienced something creepy yourself. I'd love to hear your stories. Stay tuned for more chilling tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay safe and beware what lurks in the shadows.